Hey everybody, welcome back to day 8 of 21 Days Anti-Aging Protocol to Awaken Your Inner Lioness. I want to take a minute to invite you to share with me one thing that has been helpful for you, something that you got out of value participating here, maybe an inspiration, a new action, a new routine, something that moved you, something that reminded you, whatever it is that you want to share that could be inspiring for somebody else who's participating. And I invite you to let us know where you're tuning in from, as well as I take a minute to share the live with the ones that are in the group and want to participate live. I hope you are able to join me at least in the replay if you're not able to be live, because the material that I'm going to cover today is going to make a big difference, especially if you're over 40 years old and you want to lose a little bit of fat. So some of you know I started my business in 2020. And when I started my business, I started with something that I was very passionate about, knowledgeable about, and it had been a pain point of mine over a period of my life, I think my whole life, which is managing the ideal weight, right? I was a sports, fanatic when I was growing up. And at the age of 15, my coach told me that I could not participate in sports unless I lost a little bit of weight. And that needed to happen by the beginning of the next season. And so it was a big challenge for me. And I took it on. I took it on with a friend of mine. And after 3 months, not only did we accomplish the outcome that we both had, which was losing weight before the preseason ended, but we also started a new lifestyle. We no longer manage food and or sabotage ourselves with the nutrition, and we managed food very different ever since then. I grew up in a family where my parents owned a pharmacy. They knew a lot about a lot of things, but nutrition was not something that they knew, were aware, or concerned about. And there was a lot of overeating, eating of the wrong thing, not being organized. And for years, my parents talked about learning how to eat better, bringing a nutritionist, and that never actually took place. So at age 15, I had to learn myself how to take care of myself, what to eat, what not to eat, how to learn how to manage my nutrition. And losing those 15 pounds, actually it was 30 pounds, 15 kilograms in the period of 3 months, gave me an opportunity to understand how to take care of myself. If I had that tendency of gaining a few pounds, being able to bring myself back to alignment. And if I gain a few pounds for whatever reason, because I had not been eating on point or working out on a consistent basis, or I got too lazy or relaxed, whatever the case might be, I was able to bring myself back to, taking care of myself, eating the right things, working out. And so it was a great opportunity for me to learn how to do that. Now, the story changed very much after I got to age 41, 42. I was a manager in a corporate job, and I had a lot of responsibility. I had, employees I had to manage, targets I had to meet. It was fairly a new mom, and I had to figure it out how to take care of myself, take care of my home, and being able to keep my self-care on point. That was really challenging, and I had to pull myself back to be able to understand and being able to make the changes I needed to make so that I could start being more consistent with my self-care. Because one of the things that I found out I was doing as a coach, I tend to give my experience, support, holding space, inspiring other people. But it is required in order for me to be an effective coach, is that I practice what I teach and or preach, and that I'm a role model on what you guys are going to take on. Because if I'm not being a role model on what's the ideal self-care, how to eat, what to do, then it would be very inauthentic, and it would quite frankly lack integrity. And so I had to learn over the years how to bring myself to prioritize my self-care, which is not always perfect, and it always doesn't flow. Many times I stall, I have to take a step back, I need to refocus, realign, need to kind of reprioritize, reframe my priorities, all those things over and over and over. But I started getting to understand how to bring myself back to that, taking care of myself, working out, eating right, all the things that I needed to do, right? So at 41, 42, when I got that corporate job and I had so much on my plate and I was a little bit more stressed than I normally was, I ended up taking very little care of myself. Started gaining weight. I wasn't working out consistently. I wasn't feeling great. My body was achy. There was a lot of inflammation, and I found myself with 40 pounds to lose. And so it was Thanksgiving Day of 2019. And I remember I made my mind up and I said, there's no more gaining weight. There's no more keeping the way that it is. There is no more of that. I'm going to go ahead and take care of my health. And so it was November, I think 22nd, 23rd, whenever Thanksgiving starts here in the United States. And my good friend had invited us for Thanksgiving. And I told her, I'm starting with this nutritional plan. I can, overeat or eat the wrong thing because I'm really determined to get started. So she helped me prepare a lot of the healthy foods. And even though it was a quote unquote inconvenience to start right in the holiday season, it was the best part of the year to start. Why? Because we tend to overeat, we tend to that normally we don't do the rest of the year. And so for me, it was preventing more weight loss, taking control of my life, changing the direction, and getting with that synergy and momentum. So that by month six and a half, I had lost the 44 pounds I wanted to lose. And I managed to keep myself on check and just being able to be focused. And so I learned by 2020, when the pandemic started, I learned how to guide other women to do the same. I could inspire, I can give the formula, if you know what I mean, like the ways to do it. And a lot of it has to do with how you feel with certain foods versus others, and not being so strict with yourself, but being disciplined, consistent, and self-aware. We know what we got to do, but many times we don't do what we know to do. And so that's why I started accompanying women in the journey of weight loss, self-care, empowering themselves, gaining strength, gaining flexibility, eliminating pain, and managing certain mental, health concerns such as anxiety or depression, that when we're eating right, when we're working out, when we're relaxing, meditating, taking time to have fun, all the things that we need to do, we are able to heal. And when we're able to reverse it, we're able to manage it, we're able to improve it, we're able to transform it. And so for me, it was an opportunity to support women. Right when the pandemic started is when I opened my business online. I had a business since 2001, but at that time I had gotten released from the job as a manager, and I had total freedom to be able to focus on what I really love. So that's when I started my business, and the focus of the focus of my business was to help women with weight loss. It was unstoppable weight loss for women. Many of you might still be in the group that started with me back in April of 2020. And here we are 5 years later. I really love helping women to take control of their life, to remove the obstacles, to feel better, to get empowered, to get to their goals, not only physical, but also mental, emotional, spiritual, financial. And it all starts with you being able to align with you, your self-care, prioritize it, and not feeling guilty, not feeling like you shouldn't be doing that because XYZ is expecting you to do XYZ. And we end up getting completely distracted. And so we right now, if you are 40 years of age or older, and you're dealing with any of the things that I mentioned, like gain a little more fat in the belly, not being able to control the weight loss or lose fat, feeling like all your efforts are, vanishing because there's no result that matches the amount of effort. I want to share with you a few of the tips that have made a difference for me to understand this and my journey in trying to figure out a way to empower myself beyond what the doctor said. Because we all know medicine is to heal the sick, but it's not necessarily a prevention tool. And many times when we follow what the doctor says, doctors will put you in medication, will tell you you need to medicate for weight loss, you need to medicate for diabetes. And I'll share my own struggles and issues with the sugar balancing that I also managed to learn and start managing myself without medication and without the doctor advice. But initially it was a little bit of the same kind of journey that I started. Losing the weight was one battle. I got there, and after losing the weight, there were other things related with sugar management that became an issue for me. But let's talk about what happens after age 40. After age 40, what tends to happen is women start with perimenopause. Back in the 70s or 80s, we barely heard that conversation about perimenopause. It seems like it's a new fad or a new thing that people talk about. But truly, for us women that have been through the a nuisance of the hot flashes or not sleeping so well or belly fat showing up where it used not to be, and all these things that start happening in middle age. Sometimes we have lack of focus, foggy brain, irritability. We can't control our cravings, things that happen that are common for us. But it gets much worse after 4 years. And so what we want to realize is that the culprit is hormones. And that's what at the bottom or the basic level of what I do with women is I help them gain control through starting with the balancing of the hormones, because we tend to overlook it. A lot of doctors will put you on medication without really addressing or giving you tools for you to manage that holistically. And so we have to take control of our lives, start, eating right, working out, resting more, meditating, connecting with nature, looking at how we feel physically, emotionally, spiritually, and really address the concerns at the core of our soul. Because when we think of just the physical, we leave the emotional behind or the spiritual behind. We disconnect with ourselves, we disconnect with who we are, we disconnect with what matters to us. And it becomes really hard to just address one of the pain points, which is the weight loss, losing XYZ pounds. Okay. So I approach the whole thing of weight loss holistically, integrating all the physical aspect, mental aspect, spiritual aspect. And when we address it this way, we tend to have results that will go well beyond the weight loss. My clients end up decluttering the space, end up starting businesses, end up growing their business, end up making choices in their personal life from a place of empowerment, setting boundaries, saying no to the things that they used to say yes by default that left them stretched, overstretched, lacking focus, frustrating, feeling resentful of having to overextend themselves for other people. And so we bring ourselves back to the center when we think of body, mind, and soul. If we were to be a triangle, this would be body, mind, and soul. What happens is it goes upside down as a woman, as a mother, as an executive, as a business owner, as a wife, whatever it is that you deal with, that is like a lot of different aspects of your life, ends up being a burden, ends up being multitasking, ends up being stress, ends up being stretching yourself beyond your capacity many times. And what it leaves us with is with the impact. And the impact of being in that state of mind is stress, of course. There's no peace of mind, and we are definitely not effective with what we need to do. And so, in order for us to get out of this place where we're pointing down, our self care is at the bottom, and bring it by ourselves back, is becoming aware of what is going on. That is ultimately what we want to do. What is the impact of what's going on? And how can I change the direction on where I'm going? How can I intercept, interrupt, and go into a new direction versus keep on going the way we were going? Many times a vicious cycle, completely dysfunctional. It doesn't work, but here we are trying to do the same thing, getting frustrated, resigned, cynical, giving up, trying again, failing again, and over again. That like vicious cycle that we all know. I start on Monday, by Tuesday we gave up. We start on Monday, by Wednesday we gave up. And so hormones are going to be something that is very important to manage, to identify where we are. We have the cortisol, we have the insulin, we have have progesterone, which is something that's also very important as women, especially after age 40. And so starting with that, checking that before any kind of weight loss plan or fat loss plan, because I don't like to talk about weight on the scale. I like to talk about inches, fat loss, percentage of fat in your body versus muscle mass. That's going to be much more effective than just thinking of how many pounds on the scale, because sometimes we can be less pounds in the scale, but there's no tone in your body. You're not flexible. You're still experiencing pain. Maybe there's still flabby parts in your body. So sometimes having a little bit more pounds and being toned, being strong, being muscular, having that muscle mass that keeps us healthy and it helps us burn more calories so we prevent the weight gain is more important. Now we are brainwashed to think of stepping in the scale, seeing how many pounds we are and how many pounds we need to lose. And we have to get out of that mentality, right? So, as a woman after age 40, checking your balance before you start any kind of weight loss, fat loss plan. The second thing to address is going to be stress. Stress is a killer. It has more side effects or consequences in our health more than anything else. Kind of like with sugar. Sugar is also kind of like a culprit. And so when you have a high level of stress, and yesterday we talked about it when we did the breath work, mindfulness practice, right? When you have a lot of stress, you're going to have that cortisol. We talked about that cortisol, that is a hormone that should only be present when it's nighttime, when you're resting and sleeping, but it shows up when you're stressed, when you're in survival mode, when you're in uncertainty, when all these things are stressing you out, then cortisol shows up. What is the role of cortisol? It becomes like fat first fertilizer, and it doesn't allow you to lose fat, lose weight. And so we need to tackle that on. And how can we do it? Lowering the levels of stress. That's why yesterday when we did the breath work, I showed you a few different modalities or techniques, forms of breath work, so you can choose the one that feels better for you and tune in, see which one resonates with you. I don't want you to do anything that doesn't resonate, that doesn't make a difference, that doesn't leave you better than when you started. And so I'm going to ask you to try it out, see which one works, and then you do maybe 5 to 10 minutes of mindfulness every day. It could be deep breathing, it could be yoga, meditation, breath work, it could be guided meditation, mantra meditation. I don't know what it is for you. Maybe a walk in nature, connecting with nature could be a form of meditation. Some of the ladies that knit, that's a form of meditation as well. We're not thinking of anything, we're just doing this activity, right? And it becomes a form of meditation. So I don't care what you're doing, but what we want to tackle is going to be that stress level. And how we do it with mindfulness, with breath work, with practices that relax, regulate our nervous system. And if you were not to address these two things that we talked about, the balance of the hormones and the mindfulness to release the stress that you're carrying, that you're dealing with, that constantly is present in your life, that leaves you burnout, exhausted, drained, and frustrated, then we're not going to be able to accomplish the fat loss. The last one of all, and one of the things that I talk about with women all the time that come for me for support, is that sometimes we're disconnected with ourselves. We're disconnected with our authentic self. We're disconnected in a way that we're not aware about what is happening. We're not aware of how much we're eating. We're not aware of when we're hungry. We're not aware if we're hungry or thirsty. We're not aware of how much we're eating. We're not aware of what we're eating. We're not aware of what the impact of the food that we're eating has on our body and our weight and how we feel. And so connecting with ourselves in a deeper level is going to be the key thing for you to find some relief with this fat. Why? Because when we're disconnected, when we're stressed out, when we're not living a life of purpose, when we're not present, when we're not empowered, it's impossible to accomplish any goal, not just weight loss or fat loss. It's going to be any goal that you try to accomplish in life. And so becoming aligned with your authentic self, operating from your faith, operating from that self-confidence, operating from I deserve, I'm valued, I matter, it's important I take care of myself, it's important for other people as well as for me. then we're not going to be able to accomplish that. And so the invitation today for you guys is to start taking this journey like you matter, like you deserve the taking care of yourself. And that little time that you take to meditate or to step out in nature or to relax yourself with any other form of mindfulness is going to be the last key for being able to manage the weight loss. Because if we were to apply what we already know, and let's think about this metaphor, right? If you were to have a friend come over to you and say, hey, you know what? I want to lose 10 pounds or 15 pounds or 20 pounds. Wouldn't you agree that you would be the expert at giving advice to your friend because you know what she needs to eat, you know how she needs to work out, you know what she needs to do to lose the weight, and you could be the greatest advisor for that friend of yours. But when it comes to you, yourself, your self-care, your eating habits, your lifestyle, it's a whole different ball game because it's much harder to be accountable to ourselves, disciplined and consistent than it is to give advice for somebody else to do that. And even when we did give advice, sometimes we might be the best at giving advice, but very poor at applying it for ourselves. And so in order for us to accomplish this weight loss after 40, we have to start with checking the balance of the hormones, looking at where we are. Are we in perimenopause? Are we in menopause? Are we in postmenopause? Are we not there yet? One of my clients checked everything. There's nothing, no indication of being in menopause, even though she's about my age, 40 years old, 48 years old. And so, you have to check to know. And then, looking at the rest of the things that we talked about in that order, the mindfulness, the regulation of the nervous system, and that connection with ourself, with our authentic self, with our confidence, with our power, with our commitment, with our consistency, with our deservability and being worthy, feeling like I deserve to take care of myself. I am my own top priority. And of course, my family matters and I love my kids and I'm going to take care of my home or my significant other. But that doesn't mean that in order to do that, I abandon myself. And so I need to be my first and foremost, my own priority. And then when I'm nourished, when I have my cup filled, when I'm taken care of, when I'm grounded, centered, positive, focus, in charge, excited, right? When I have that feeling of I'm unstoppable, then I can provide so much more value, so much inspiration, so much support for whoever might need and or expect my presence, my energy, my support, and or my guidance. And so I want to invite you tonight to be able to do this. Is we're going to have two things that we're going to do. One, I'm going to ask you between today and tomorrow for the next 24 hours to create a log of all the foods and drinks that you're consuming, right? To become aware. And the second one is going to be using the practice of mindfulness breath work that we went over yesterday to be able to center, ground, regulate your nervous system, bring yourself to that chill mode, and being able to just operate from a place of being calm, center, focus, and not really worked up or irritable or foggy brain or whatever could have shown up. Okay, so those bring you back to being in the authentic self and operating from faith, power, consistency, discipline. I matter. I care about myself. I'm my own, most important priority. And from that place, I will make a bigger impact and difference in the world because I'm taking care of me first. And it's not selfish. It's actually required for me to not be drained and emotionally exhausted or burned out. Yeah. So that's the first part, which is the nutrition. That's the second part, which is the breath work. And that's all we're going to do. And then after that, what I'm going to ask you to do is to share it in the Facebook group so other people can get inspired, so other people can participate, so other people are able to see that they are not alone, that they are not the only ones, that it's not so hopeless. And if you're able to do it, they will be able to do it too. And so that's my invitation for you to do the homework today until tomorrow's live. I'll go back to be live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I've been sharing all the tips and the tricks that we have available. and I'm going to do the raffle for the sessions that I'm offering available for people that have been doing the homework. So for the winner for today, day 8, is Vanita. Vanita, you have been participating with the lives and the replays and doing the homework and communicating with me on the private messenger. So you are the winner for today's free session. If you want to win a free session and you haven't won one, go back to the old homeworks and just share there. Keep on sharing. Because my goal is that whoever wants to win a free session, and it will be solely focused on making a difference on you, your life, where you're dealing with, what is going on with you, and really impacting that versus a sales goal or anything else. Okay, so I want you to know this is going to be for you to be able to start with your journey of self-care and empowering yourself if you are dealing with any of these side effects of midlife. And so, Vanita, you are the winner. Congratulations. Thank you so much for participating. And I'll message you all the winners of the free session. But if you heard that your name is being called and you didn't get a message from me, feel free to message me as well. All right, with that, we are completing day 8. Have a beautiful night. Thank you so much for being here. I'll go live again at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I thank you so much for your time and your participation, and don't hesitate to reach out, ask me questions, share whatever it is that you're getting out of participating in this, because I love hearing from you, and I also love to support women that are taking on their life and being able to win at doing it versus being defeated and not able to, or frustrated or giving up. All right, so with that, we complete day 8. Thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for the winners of the free session, please reach out to me or get back to me when I reach out to you. Take care. Bye-bye.